Hi, I am Mohan Menon, Dean Academics, Reliant Group of Institutions. I put in 3.5 decades experience in shipping and logistics before taking up my current position with Reliant. I had occasions to travel and see the operational activities of seaports as well as warehouses where the logistics activities were happening. Today, my mission is to groom graduates and make them employable in the growing shipping and logistics industry. When we talk about shipping and logistics industry, it is worthwhile to know what is this industry, how this industry has come to the position, the predominant position which the industry is today. We will see how it happens in today. International business is something that is happening globally, and shipping is a derived demand of the international business. When I say that, international business, if it has to really take place and start moving the cargo crossing oceans and continents, the industry needs the support of shipping companies. So, international business and shipping companies work hand in hand. We will see how the shipping company started and how the working is. The first mechanized commercial vessel was a bulk vessel. You are seeing a bulk vessel on the screen now. The bulk vessel is where the cargo is loaded into the hatches. You can see the covers. These are the hatch covers. These covers are opened and the cargo is loaded in the underdeck, the space that you are seeing. That is where the cargo is loaded. This industry is even now happening, but there are options now for customers to use smaller volume shipped in smaller quantity. We will see how we reach there. So this is the traditional bulk vessel, and then from the bulk vessel we have moved to break bulk vessels. Break bulk vessels, what happens is that it is the same ship. You can see that the hatches and the cargo is loaded under deck, but under deck the cargoes are loaded in loose form but packed, unitized. Earlier the cargo, when it was in the bulk vessels, it used to move in bulk quantity, whereas when the break bulk came, all the cargo got to be unitized in this format. It can be bale cargo, it can be bag cargo, it can be cartons, it can be pallets or wooden crates. So these are the packing. It can be in drums. These are the packing which were, and the cargo used to be in break bulk area. Again, the shipment confined to a single port and a single load port and a single discharge port. But it was multiple shipper and multiple buyers. Yeah. And the next moment was the liner shipping. Liner shipping really made a big change in the shipping scenario. Liner shipping is a ship operating in a fixed route, and they offer a fixed time at each port of call. For example, a vessel is sailing, say, Kochi, Colombo, Dubai, and Singapore, and back to Kochi. It has got a time to cover one round trip, and it comes back to Kochi on a fixed day. So you can imagine that it is once in 10 days it calls Kochi after completing one rotation. The customer gets the facility that every 10th day there is a ship to load their cargo, which is way different from what it used to be in the past. And also, what happens? The shippers have got the capacity to load cargo for multiple ports, multiple countries, because the ship is calling, once it leaves Kochi, Colombo, Sri Lanka, Dubai, Middle East, Singapore, and back to Kochi. So it was multiple shipper, multiple seaports, and multiple buyers. First we saw single shipper, port to port. Then we saw multiple shipper, port to port. Now we are seeing multiple ports, multiple buyers, and multiple seaports. So that is a big change. The liner shipping was a big change. And again, if you take a look at the ship is the same. It is the same vessel, and cargoes were loaded. Under the cargo, this is, as I told you, the hatch cover. They open the hatch cover, load the cargo, then close the hatches and sail. That's how it happens. Sea freight containers were introduced for cargo carriage through semi-containerized services. Whenever there was hatch loading, there used to be some damages for the cargo. Damages for the cargo, like cargo is received short and cargo is received damaged. How is it getting damaged? The getting damaged is when the cargo we'll see the previous slide, the cargo is loaded opening the hatches. When opening the hatches, this hatch, as you see, it is a pretty heavy material. To move the hatches, to open the hatches and close it, it takes about half an hour. It's not that very easy. So when suddenly a rain comes, the hatches are opened, the open hatches, the water sweep in. And when the water sweep in, what happens? The cargo get wet. So wet damage is rampant. And also the shortage. Shortage was even at the discharge port, when the cargo was always not possible to identify the exact numbers. So there was shortage, and when it was bulk cargo, the bulk cargo is loaded loose in the ship, and getting all the cargo, so for example food grain, taking that up to the last food grain was impossible. So there is some cargo is left in the deck, in the hold, and there was a shortage of weight that is shipped. So this was a major complaint, and for that only we got as a remedy the containers. So the containers were designed by Malcolm, a US citizen, and he tried it actually converting a small truck. The top it was taken and moved, and there were a lot of changes, and finally they came to a 20-foot container. They started moving the container, and what they did was, it is introduced for cargo carriage. Sea freight containers were introduced for cargo carriage through semi-containerized liner vessel. Liner service was again there. We discussed what is liner service, but semi-containerized liner service is in this shape. This is a semi-containerized vessel. You can see that. There are a few containers on top, and under deck it was again the old loose cargo. Loose cargo means unitized small parcels, LCL cargo. So that is how it was. So under deck it was containerized cargo, and on deck it is containers. The container idea, the concept of container fits very well, because the cargo used to be stuffed into the container was sealed and locked, so that the cargo pilferage or cargo damage has never happened. They could 100% check both issues they face for ages, which is damage and shortage. So the concept of containerization got through very fast, it caught up very well, and it turned to a fully containerized vessel introduced to the sea route. You are seeing a fully containerized sea route. It happened in 1956, and the containers are on deck, and also the containers are under deck. Where the cargo was used, was loaded in loose condition, or the cargo was loaded in small packing, all those areas were shifted for container stacking. So it is only cargo was on these ships, the cargo carried is only in containers, and this cargo ship was, it is in 1956 it started, and from there the concept kept on very well. Most of the buyers were happy about the cargo movement, and then what happened is the sizes of the cargo started changing. We saw a ship in the previous one. It is a relatively small ship and a few number of containers. From that it developed to a larger vessel with more number of high stack containers on deck, and under deck of course full, and those ships started sailing. And then we also got the latest, much advertised 24,000 TEU capacity vessel, which is owned by a shipping company called MSC, and they are now, these are the type of ships which is sailing now. So the shipping evolution as far as the ship is concerned, which we discussed as bulk vessel, break bulk vessel, bulk liner service, semi-container service, and fully container service, and the latest large container vessel. All these 6 type of vessels came over a period of time, securing and ensuring the EXIM community received an error-free, 100% accurate service as far as movement of cargo is concerned globally from any country to any country. And also, the containers that was introduced gave an opportunity for the EXIM trade to move the cargo beyond the ship. Earlier, the cargo was accepted at the port and discharged at the port. The shipping business was only to move the cargo between 2 seaports. But with the introduction of containers, the cargo inside the container started moving over land to the destination. So that was an extended service where the practice of multi-modal service was introduced. Now we see the different type of containers. We talked about containers, and we saw the evolution of shipping, which is quite encouraging. I'm sure you would have liked it. Now, you see, what is the next change? What is the next change that has happened? We talked about containers. The original containers were a 20 foot and a 40 foot. I mean the standard sizes. Even Ceylon had a container which was 35 foot container. But finally now what is happening in the industry is either a 20 foot container or a 40 foot container. So the 20 foot and 40 foot containers were introduced, and along with that, in which normal dry cargo were carried. 20 foot container for normal containers where heavy cargo could also load, whereas 40 foot container for voluminous cargo. For example, a 20 foot container can take about 22.5 metric tons of cargo, a 20 foot, but it doesn't mean a 45 foot can take 45 metric tons of cargo. A 40 foot container can take maximum 24 or 25 tons of cargo. This is considering the road weight restrictions that is applicable globally, because the containers have to go from port to the destinations overland, and also the ship's crane capacity, which is standardized. Now we have seen the dry containers. This is the normal dry containers. These are the door opening, and you can see that there is an open containers. You can see that. Then you got high cube containers. High cube containers this is 20 feet by 8 feet by 8.5 feet. 8.5 feet is the height, whereas a high cube container is 40 foot by 8 feet by 9 feet, or sorry, 9.5 feet, 1 feet higher. Why this high cube containers? High cube containers were provided for loading cargo which is voluminous, that is very lightweight but very large volume. An example could be red chilies in bags. Red chilies are very light cargo, but once it is loaded, it is quite bulky. And I think a 40 foot container can take maximum is 16 metric tons. A high cube container can take maximum 16 metric tons. So we introduced the high cube containers. Then there are open top containers. Look at the open top containers. Open top containers, it has got the door opening as usual. Length, width and height are the same. It doesn't change. But it has got a tarpaulin cover on top, if you can see. It has got a tarpaulin cover on top, and the tarpaulin is sewed at the side to ensure that there is a top cover, so the water doesn't spill into the container and the cargo get damaged. Open top container is basically to load heavy machinery that cannot be loaded through the front, which cannot be handled with a forklift. Forklift is the equipment which load the cargo inside the container. So if all the type of cargos, which is heavy packets, parcels, they used to be loaded using a crane and a sling through the top into the container. That is open top containers. Then you have got, this is a normal container that is kept open. Then you got a flat rack container. Flat rack container, as you can see, again, length, width and height are the same, but both the sides are open, 3 sides are open, and you have got heavy machineries which are weighing 20 tons, 25 tons, that can be moved and loaded into the flat rack container. You also have a side open containers. There the cargo, because the huge big rolls and all that of various mattings and such commodity, you can stuff through the sides, and there is a double door. Double door is from both ends you can use. All these are for stuffing heavy containers, and it is for the easy handling of the cargo. You have an insulated container, and you also have a tank container. Tank container, as you see, is basically for oil carriage or edible goods, like liquid items. But again, one thing that you have to notice is that every container has got a size which is suiting either 8 feet by 20 feet by 8 feet by 8.5 feet, or 40 feet by 8 feet and 8.5 feet, or 40 feet by 8 feet into 9.5 feet, which is the high cube container. The last one I want to tell you is the reefer container. Reefer container is in which we load the frozen cargo, the seafood, the meat, the vegetables. Actually, it has got a temperature control effect also. For example, all the reefer cargo is not loaded at the same temperature. For each product, it has got a temperature that is required to retain good over a period of time. Its shelf life. So that is what you can see even at our houses. In the refrigerator, you have a freezer unit and a chill tray. You keep your vegetables in different thing. You will find different trays. You will find that some getting rotten and some staying. Why it is? It is because every product needs a particular temperature to retain its shelf life. So this container has got that facility to do that. It's thermostat. The freezing unit is at this side, and you have a door opening at the other side through which the cargo is loaded. So you have a rough idea about what are the type of containers we introduced. Just imagine why these containers were introduced. Whose idea it was? What was the provocation? These containers were introduced as we discussed the evolution of the ship, that from the bulk carrier to 24,000 TEU capacity ultra-modern container vessel, which can sail through Panama Canal or Suez Canal or whatever are the facility. From that, it was the requirement of international business. International business wanted cargo movement in various formats, in various countries, and to various places. Similarly, cargo carriage equipment also were developed to suit the international trade and the requirement of the EXIM trade. EXIM trade, when I say it, is export-import trade. That is EXIM trade. So that is why this different type of containers were introduced. And today, the shipping industry has got the capacity to take any volume of cargo to anywhere in the world within an average about 30-35 days transit time. I say it is average. Average, it is a 35 days transit time. Yeah. Now you see the freight forwarding concept. In India, during early 90s or late 80s, this concept has come. Freight forwarding is actually freight forwarding concept offered value-added services in logistics and to EXIM community. They also offered the concept of single window service. What is happening for the freight forwarders? A freight forwarder is a person who gives a value-added service to the customer. Today, for any country to export the cargo, basis their EXIM policy, export-import policy, there are certain formalities to be done. They have to have the customs examination done. They got to have the customs passing and stuffing. They got to have the port permission. They got to have the bill of lading prepared and given. They got to have the warehousing facility and transportation. And finally, loading the cargo to the container. Stuffing the cargo into the container and loading onto the ship. All these were, until that time, were managed by the shipper, exporter. So you can imagine how much time he would have spent. He has to do all these things by himself or his team of staff. Now what happens is that there is a business community called freight forwarders, and freight forwarders will take over everything. Ideally, the freight forwarder will have a capacity of warehousing, transportation, and customs clearance. Customs clearance can be his own or it can be contracted. So when they do that, there is a customer service desk. An exporter can just call the freight forwarder, customer service desk, and talk about his requirement, basis letter of credit. When is the shipment wanted, which ship it is, then the entire follow-up will be done by the freight forwarder. They will book the space with the ship. They will do the pre-shipment documentation with the customs. They will arrange the cargo stuffing into the container. They will move the container to the ship site. They will load it on the ship. In between, suppose the shipper is from a faraway place and he wants some storage facility, freight forwarder will give also warehousing and transportation facility. That is the capacity of a freight forwarding, and that concept has caught up very well. They also handle cargo for airlines. Air cargo also they carry. I told you about the containers, and the container gave the facility to move the cargo beyond the seaports. Shipping was just confining to a load port, to the discharge port. From there, with the introduction of the containers, the cargo could be stuffed, say, at the warehouse of the customer, the exporter, bring the cargo to the seaport, load it onto the ship, discharge at the port of discharge, and then further transport the same container to the buyer's warehouse. So that the advantage is that the cargo is intact right from the loading point right up to the receiving point. And the cargo is stuffed under the supervision of the exporter directly by his workers, so that there is no cargo damage possible. That is how it's being done. The concept of LCL consolidation supported the EXIM trade to ship even small parcels. Earlier, it used to be the cargo stuffing into the container, maybe small parcel or full container load or part container load. But there is a set of business came which is called the LCL consolidators. What does an LCL consolidator do? What they do is that they book a container with a good shipping company, and they say that, hey, I have a container moving to Europe. Whatever destinations the exporters have, for European in Europe, whichever points they have, they can give all their cargo to this particular LCL consolidator. They will consolidate all the cargoes into one 20-foot container or a 40-foot container, depending on the volume of the cargo, and then ship it. I repeat, the concept of LCL consolidation is, there is a consolidator who is a service provider like freight forwarder. He will advertise a ship and a space. On that ship and space, all LCL cargo means exporters who have got small parcels, say 1 ton, half a ton, 2 tons, 3 tons, such people. Such cargo are tended at a warehouse. All the cargo are tended at a warehouse or a container freight station. When it is adequate to fill a 20-foot container or a 40-foot container, the LCL consolidator bring the container, stuff it into a 20-foot or a 40-foot, and then ship it to, say, Europe base port. What is a base port? In Europe, you can say that Rotterdam is a base port because that is a transshipment area. It is a hub and spoke point. So it goes there. From there, this container is taken to a warehouse. It is stripped, all the cargo is taken out, and then it is tagged destination-wise. There may be cargo for France, there may be cargo for Germany, there is cargo for Spain, Italy, wherever in that area. The cargo will be there, and then it will be stacked separately, and from there the container is again reconsoled into another container and ship it to Germany or ship it to France or ship it to Italy or Spain, where it goes. Because in a European hub port, the volumes, LCL volumes coming from all over the world is huge, and that justifies one container each of volume moving to these countries. So the advantage is that a person sitting in India who is shipping, say, 1 cubic meter of cargo can reach the cargo to his destination in Italy on a fairly decent transit time, which I earlier pronounced as 35 days average. He can deliver the cargo, and his charges are only for the small parcel. So today we have that capacity and that service, and the success of that service depends on the business fraternity called LCL consolidators. That is why today, again, just to sum up, from the 30,000 metric tons loose cargo being shipped from a port to port, today you can have 1 metric ton or 1 cubic meter of small lot also stuffed into container and moved to anywhere in the world within a decent transit time. And that is what, as the international businesses derive demand, the shipping and logistics have done for the industry. And that is what is retaining and improving, prospering the international business. So in case you have any doubt, you can comment down below or contact the number, and call will be only happy to answer you. I shall come back with a new topic soon, and thank you very much. Mohan Menon, Reliant Group of Institutions.